Welcome! As you know, we're now moving on to work with SPSS to conduct more advanced analyses. This video will show you how to get your data up into SPSS and then how to conduct a preliminary descriptive analysis of that data. The data set here in this example is one that I made up for the demonstration. You'll be working with real data, however, in the lab. Okay, so let's get started. Here we are in our familiar Aporto page on the internet. And again, this time we're going to be working in SPSS. So I'm going to click the Launch SPSS button right here. And we are logging into Aporto first. And now you can see SPSS is starting, and we also see the Aporto desktop. Okay, so the first thing we have to do, of course, is get our data up into Aporto. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to move this over here, and as you can see, I've actually already uploaded this data file, but I made a change in the data file, so let me delete it here, and I'll show you how to upload it from scratch. So just as we've been doing, I'm going to click the upload button. I'm going to look for my data. That's the data set I need right there. Again, you've downloaded this data from Brightspace. You brought it onto your computer, and now you've got to bring it back up, except this time to Aporto. So we're going to click OK. And the upload is complete. We'll close out of that alert. And the easiest way to get an SPSS file into SPSS is simply to drag it and drop it. So I'm going to click, drag it over here, and there we go. Okay, all our data is now in SPSS. Let's get started with some analysis. So this analysis will follow the analysis that you'll be doing with the data set I'm going to give you. This is just made up data for demonstration purposes. All right, so let me first close out of this little Aporto set of buttons by clicking the up button. If I need to get it again, we just drag, click, and there you go. But we don't need it. All right, so we have three variables here. We have gender, group, and score. And you'll notice a couple of things about this, about what we're looking at. First is the differences in these column headings, the different pictures. There are three variables in this data set: gender, group, and score. And you'll see that gender and group are both characterized by this, by these three little circles. Gender has an A next to the little circles. Let's talk about that. Both of these are essentially categories. You can be male or female, or you can be in group 1 or group 2 of this experiment. There's a little A here to indicate that the variable actually contains something called a text string, a string of text, string of characters. The group variable is the same kind of variable, but there's no A. Why? Because the groups are defined by numbers, group 1 or group 2. Score here has a ruler, and this indicates that this is ratio or interval data, and we can do math on this. We can compute a mean of score, we can compute a median, we can run a t-test, whatever we want with score. Now, to make this a little bit easier to follow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the View button here, and I'm going to select Value Labels. Let's see what happens when I do that. Now I'm showing what a human being, a person reading this, would see. And this is a little bit easier to look at rather than rather than simply a 1 or a 2. The 1 or 2 are the data values, but they're not really, they happen to be numbers, but we're not treating them as numbers. Okay, they're just stand-ins for group 1, group 2, etc. And there are only two groups in this data set. All right. So the first thing I'd like to do is to get an idea of the average score. In any kind of data analysis, First thing we want to do is get a picture of the data, find out what the average, the standard deviation, etc., those basic statistics that we want to know about any data set. So to do that, I'm going to go up to Analyze. I'm going to select Descriptive Statistics. I'm going to select Descriptives. And we want Score. Okay. And I think that's all we need to worry about here. We'll click OK. And there you have it. The average score is 66.5. There are 100 cases. The minimum score was 40. The maximum score was 92. And the standard deviation was about 12.5. All right. Let me close out of this. This is very annoying. SPSS always asks if we want to save the output. We'll want to save it later on, but for right now, we're going to leave it because we're going to do something else. I'm going to click No. So as you can see, we have two genders, male and female, and two groups, group 1 and group 2. So it would be interesting to look at the mean value for each group and also the mean value for each gender. So to do that, I'm going to go back to Analyze, back to Descriptive Statistics, but this time I'm going to select Explore. Okay, we're going to choose Explore. Click that. The dependent list, that just means the variable that we want to get the values for, that we want to compute the statistics for. And the factors are the two groups that we're interested. So I'm going to select both of them by holding down the Shift key, click that button, and now let's open up statistics and see what it looks like. All right, nothing we need to worry about over there. We'll cancel. Options, nothing we need to worry about over there. So again, we'll click cancel. And let's run this in a single run. I'm going to compute both statistics and do some plots. And SPSS is going to generate for me a box plot, or two box plots actually, and stem and leaf plots as well. So let's take a look at that. I'll click OK. And there you have it. Let's take a look about how to read this now. I'm going to maximize this output screen. And what do we have here? So it looks like the mean score for females was 71.68. The mean score for males was 61.32. The median for females was 72. The median for men was 61. And we have a variance and standard deviation for the two groups, and a minimum and maximum value, as well as a range. Oh, it even gives us the interquartile range. So already we begin to have an idea of what our data looks like. It appears that, let's see, the standard deviation for the men overall was quite a bit higher. The women were more clustered around that mean, 8.78. The men were not as well clustered, about 13.5 around the mean. And that's also borne out in the interquartile range, which is 20 for the men, and the interquartile range for the women is 13. So that's what you'd expect. We didn't spend too much time on stem and leaf plots, so we're not going to look at those here. But let's take a look. Oh, look, it's going to give us a box plot. So we have a box plot for females, a box plot for men's, and indeed, as the descriptives told us or showed us, the mean for the females was higher. That black line shows the mean than the mean for the females. And the interquartile range for the females was also less than it was for the males. Okay? And indeed, look at these outlying values. More greater spread for the males than the females. And again, that was borne out when we looked at the range statistic up here. The range for the females was 42. The range for the men was 52. All right. So that's the gender data. Now let's take a look at the group data. For the males, I'm sorry, for group 1, the group 1 folks scored 67.4, and the group 2 about 65.6. So those are pretty close, but they're not exactly the same. So we may wind up doing some t-tests to verify that. Same thing with the genders. They looked very different, but we'll have to run a t-test to see if these are statistically significantly different. All right, median. Let's see. The median was 68 for group 1, 67.5 for group 2. And let's take a look at the picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words when it comes to statistics, I think. So yeah, there's a little bit of a difference. It's very hard to tell on this chart, but there's a bit of a difference. Looks like it's a little bit higher here, the mean scores. A little bit higher for group 1 than for group 2. And there you have it. That's basically how to get data up into SPSS and how to analyze it. One more thing worth showing you. For these tables up here, for these statistical tables, what you're going to have to do in your reports, I don't want to see all this because I don't need all this other information. I don't need the confidence interval. We don't cover that in this class. I don't need the trimmed mean. Probably don't need both the variance and the standard deviation because given one, I can compute the other. Minimum, maximum might be nice. Range would be nice. IQR would be nice. Interquartile range, in other words, might be nice. Skewness and kurtosis, don't need to bother with that. What you will need to do is you will need to take these data and you'll need to put these into your own table that you create in Microsoft Word. And I'll leave it up to you to figure out how to do that, okay? I don't want you to simply copy and paste this entire table. What I want you to do is create a nice looking table for me that summarizes both the overall scores that we saw in the first example, the one where I deleted the output file, and then also these breakdowns as well. Now, to copy these into a Word document, what are we going to do? Well, right-click and copy as a Microsoft Office graphics object. Then let me open up a window with Microsoft Word. We'll open up this one here. Just, you can't see that yet because that's not. Let me drag that over into the main screen. Click on a blank document. And we'll do paste. I'll right click and do paste. And there we go. Easy. And of course, you want to resize these in some way so that we can fit them on a sheet, right? You probably only want to move this because if you move this either top or bottom or left or right, you're going to distort the graph. You can see what happens. It starts to look pretty funky. We don't want that. So let me cancel out of that. If you need to resize by clicking on the corners. That will keep the same aspect ratio. Okay, in the next video, I'll show you how to conduct a t-test.